talk. You are now listening to The Box Out with Kahlil Thomas and Jason Corden on the One Podcast Network. Let's get it.
From NJ to BK in the world, it's The Box Out here in the One Podcast Network. My name is Kahlil Thomas. Welcome back. Hi, how you doing? My basement no longer has water, and we have a new washing machine. So that's why I've been off, and we've been off. My basement to this side of me has broken down completely, apparently. And, don't own a house if you can. Like, apartment living is the way to go. Don't buy. Just rent, and that way people have to fix things for you and solve your problems. But besides that point, I'm Kahlil Thomas. Joining me in a few minutes is Jason Corden. He's dealing with emergency right now, so he'll hop on a little bit later on. And we're thinking about doing an emergency pod. Today it happened, but hell, let's run that breaking news anyway. That is right. Breaking news. Not really breaking, but kind of breaking. Don't really know. Tom Thibodeau fired as Knicks head coach on Tuesday. In what could be considered a shocking move to some. When it happened, I had kind of mixed emotions on it. I know it was kind of discussed among Knick circles about, is Tibbs the right guy? Can Tibbs get us to the next step? Tibbs got us to the Eastern Conference Finals. Can he kind of continue on and get us further on? I think that was the conversation that was going on after the 6-game series loss to the Pacers. The statement from Leon Rose made it sound like, hey, we love Tibbs. I love Tibbs, but he got us as far as he can get us. We need to find someone else to get us over the hump to win a championship. I think overall, if you take anything away from the Leon Rose statement that they made and the organization made on Tuesday announcing the firing, I think it was that. I think it became a thing where Tibbs will get us, the Timberwolves, the Bulls to this point. And that's the point where it stops. That's the point where he kind of like, okay, this is what Tibbs is, right? There was also conversation, and it was a really good article on ESPN.com about the firing and how, the adjustments he made in the Indiana series kind of almost inadvertently led to him getting fired. So, change up start lineup, taking on Josh Hart, putting in Mitchell Robinson, going down the bench and playing 9-10 guys, which – if you've watched or listened to me and Jason for the years of Tom Thibodeau being Knicks head coach, that has been our complaint. He runs the guys to the ground, and then we get to the playoff time, they look ragged. They look tired. Right? In the Indiana series, especially with that fast pace that Indiana runs, OG looked tired at times. Mitch looked tired at times. Brunson pretty much was the entire offense at multiple moments of the series. He looked tired. So these adjustments that he made in this series against Indiana, I guess almost had Leon Rose go, what? Why did he do that sooner? Why did he wait to be down 2-0 to make those adjustments? And we know Tom Thibodeau is a stubborn coach. He's a stubborn guy. He has his own ways. He's set in his ways. Chicago, Minnesota, Knicks, he does what he wants to do, and he has his certain way of coaching. But you see those moves, and they worked, right? Game 3, they worked. Did it work completely? No. I think some more adjustments need to be made defensively that probably they didn't make. Offensively, the Knicks are a stagnant offensive team. If you look at the Knicks on possessions, and their their usage rates. Not if you go into the numbers, I'm going to bore you with the numbers, the nerd stuff that I'll look at all night because that's what I do. I'm a nerd. All that stuff, pacing, ball movement, those are the things that the Knicks have always really lacked. You saw that in the Indiana series, and you saw it come to fruition that it did not work. And I think they hit a wall when it came to this team. There were many possessions. You see Jalen Brunson dribbling around, and everyone's kind of standing there watching him. Like, okay, go ahead, Jay. All right. They could not score a basket in game 2 against Indiana. Why was Karl-Anthony Towns on the bench? When besides Brunson, Cat really is your other really main offensive threat. Obviously, OG Odonobi hit some threes, hit some shots. Mikal Bridges some shots, but it's Brunson and Cat. Those are your offensive guys. Why was he on the court? All these things happened in this Indiana series that maybe you saw, and you see it in under the bright lights of the Eastern Conference Finals. You can go, why did we do that sooner? Why haven't we done that in the 5 years he's been here? Why did Tibbs only play 8 guys when he had 10? All right. Now, the indictment could be, and I took this role after the firing. Can you really blame Tibbs for what happened? Tibbs didn't trust his bench. You know why he didn't trust his bench? The bench was terrible. Let's call it what it is. You had a subpar bench. You had Deuce McBride, who I love Deuce. He's a good player. But can you depend on Deuce McBride game to game? No. Landry Shamet, I thought the signing of him was big. I'm like, that's another piece off the bench, and he has experience, and he can spot up and hit threes. Really didn't play a lot when he came back from his shoulder injury. I think he came back in November, give or take. Really didn't play a ton. Precious Achiuwa, you brought him back. And with Tibbs, if you get into that doghouse with Tibbs, you can't get out. And I think with Precious, he got in that doghouse early, and he kind of got out, but didn't really get out, and he was in and out. Besides those 3 names I mentioned, can you really trust Cam Payne? Right? Is Tyler Kolek going to be that guy that's going to drop 10, 15 points in a heat check off the bench? No. The Knicks did Tibbs a disservice, I think, throughout the 5 years of Tibbs being in New York by not giving him a bench, by not giving him those pieces that say, hey, I trust these 5 guys. Because usually you want to have a 10-guy rotation. And you can plug guys in and out. But in my head, I always think you want 10-man. Right now, if you play 8 or 9, great, but you always want to have 10 on hand that you can rest the Brunson, you can rest the Bridges, you can rest the Precious, an OG, you can rest. Tibbs never had 10 good guys on the team. Obviously, he had his 5. Obviously, starting 5 because he's starting 5 constantly. But then on the bench, what did you have in those Tibbs years? 1, maybe 2 people that you can really kind of put out there for extended minutes and go, I trust you to go out there and give me 15, 20 minutes without completely foobarring up the situation and us losing the game. I think part of it is that's the Knicks because they didn't give him the tools. If he had a bench they can trust, best believe that he would have played that bench a lot more. He never really had a bench that he can trust. But Tibbs also never really trusted the bench in the first place. Going back to Chicago, going back to Minnesota. He's not a bench guy. He's going to run those guys to the ground. Look at Derrick Rose. I think Cat hated the amount of minutes he got when he was in Minnesota. So there's a lot of blame to go around here. Tibbs, yeah, you could blame him. You could blame the organization for not giving the pieces on that bench. There's a lot of different pieces you can go with. But in the end, you kind of look at it and go, the Indiana series kind of killed him. And the ESPN.com article really pointed out, like, hey, once he made those moves and the moves worked, everyone's like, why didn't you do that? What are we doing? Well, you couldn't do that last year against Indiana. You couldn't do it in game 2 when your back was up against the wall, right? You waited to do it in game 3 in a must-win. You had to switch things up. A lot of things really happened. So it's very interesting to kind of see the post-mortem of it all. Hey, what's up, Pop? Unfortunately, he was stubborn all year, and he made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, so he stuck with what got them there. Do you change what got you there? Do you switch things up? Who knows? Hindsight is 2020. You're right. And, as a proponent of someone who constantly talked about the amount of minutes this guy's played, and me hearing it from older gentlemen about back in my day, Earl Pearl never left the game. I'm like, okay, but different time. So we're in a different situation where you can't play players 42 minutes and expect their best in April, in May, and June. Tibbs, and listen, once again, he has a history of doing this. Tibbs runs his guys into the ground. So it becomes, you have to adjust at some point, and he never really did. Now, is that a bench issue? The Knicks not getting guys? Knicks never have money. Let's be honest. You can't spend a ton of money on your bench. I think in NBA, I think we've established your bench is probably going to be the one part of your team that's not going to be up to snuff. Right? You're going to spend most of your money on your one, two, or three stars, and your bench is going to be this mix of wily vets and young guys. In the case of OKC, you got a young team in the starting five, and on your bench that just gel well together. Indiana, you look at Indiana's depth compared to the Knicks' depth, it's night and day. Because Indiana would throw out T.J. McConnell, Obi Toppin, Nesbitt. I can't remember the guy's name who killed us in Game 6. That's going to come to me like later. It'll come. You can throw out guys, and those are teams that win. Even when Denver won their championship, Denver had Bruce Brown and Kentavious Pope and those guys like that coming off the bench. You had guys that you can put in there like, I need 25 good minutes. You can get it from them. The Knicks, you didn't have that. And you really haven't really had that on that bench. So, but the question becomes, thank you, Bruce. Okay, Bruce, who's awful with names, got me on that one. Thomas Bryant. Thanks, Bruce. I appreciate it. But you got to look at it too. If Tibbs had the bench that Indiana had, would he have played that bench? Probably not. Because that's not what he does. Think back to when Mikal Bridges made that comment in Portland about how Tibbs needs to trust the bench more. He said the quiet part out loud. He said the part that everybody's been thinking about. Probably on that team. The guys probably love Tibbs. Brunson said it after they got eliminated. Hey, Tibbs is the guy. Players love Tom Thibodeau. They do love him. But Bridges said the quiet part out loud, and they're probably like, yeah, you're right. We thought the same thing. You kind of said it for us. Because Bridges, Iron Man of the NBA, he's tired playing for the Knicks. At least in Brooklyn, he played like 32 minutes. New York, he's playing like 40 to 41. So it's going to be very interesting to see kind of what happens now. Tibbs is going to get a job. It's going to have to be a particular type of organization. But now we look at the Knicks end of it. Who do they bring in to replace Thibodeau? Now, the name has been mentioned the last 2 days has been Mike Malone, who was fired in Denver. Mike Malone reminds me of Tibbs. So to get rid of a Tibbs, to bring in another type Tibbs, may not be the right move. He has a ring. He has a good coach. Listen, Denver, they did not stop listening. He did not lose that locker room. Kind of like Tibbs. And I want to say that too. Tibbs did not lose the locker room. I know that's a narrative that some people are pushing. Not everyone, but some people have seen and heard. Tibbs never lost the locker room. Those guys would ride or die for Tom Thibodeau. I think it was a Leon Rose kind of stepping back and going, is this it? Is this as far as we're going to go with Tibbs as our head coach? So, just like Mike Malone, I don't think Tibbs ever lost his locker room. That probably never will, because those guys love Tibbs to no end. So, Mike Malone was the name that was mentioned. Another name that was mentioned that I don't know why he was mentioned, and I didn't know he was mentioned until last night, was Rick Pitino. And I'm like, like old Rick Pitino, like Rick Pitino. Yeah, he was mentioned. He was on the Yankee telecast last night on the Yes Network, and they asked about the Knicks job. He said, "Not interested. I'm good." Which I'm glad because I don't want Rick Pitino coaching my team in the NBA. If I had a college and I was an AD, by all means, bring in Rick Pitino. I do not want Rick Pitino coaching my NBA team. I also remember the disaster in Boston when he was coaching the Celtics. I also kind of want to say he was also GM and coach. So in situations where you're the president, GM, and the head coach, I don't care what sport it is, you're not going to do well at all. So I'm good without Pitino. Another name from college ranks was Jay Wright. Obviously, Jay Wright's name was going to be mentioned. Oh, my computer's wrong. Jay Wright was another name mentioned. Obviously, the Villanova connection with Brunson, Hart, Bridges. Also, another person I don't see taking the job. I think he's very happy leaving Villanova when he left Villanova because he's one of those guys that was anti-NIL, anti-transfer portal. So maybe him going to the NBA would be like, hey, well, we're doing this in college. We do it in the NBA, but I don't think that's the name. The name that's really been brought up and a name that I didn't know much about was Johnny Bryant, who is the head assistant coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers with Kenny Atkinson, former Brooklyn coach. He was an assistant coach with Tibbs in New York up through last year. So he has familiarity with the roster. He knows the city. He knows the organization. So Johnny Bryant is a name that's in the pipeline. Another name that I forgot about because he was done dirty also this season, kind of like Mike Malone, Taylor Jenkins, who coached Memphis. Taylor Jenkins did nothing wrong in Memphis. None at all. Taylor Jenkins did nothing wrong in Memphis. If anything, he held that team together with all the Ja Morant bullshit. So he automatically has my vote. So he's a young coach who had success in Memphis, kept that team going after Ja was, out here flashing guns and shit. Taylor Jenkins is one of those guys that I would really like to at least be brought in for an interview. There's two things that I want from the new head coach of the Knicks. And here's two things. The first one is we need a modern offense. All right? You talk about modern offense. Ball movement, motion, people shifting, up-tempo, fast-paced. This is where we are now, right? In the NBA, we're running gun, right? The NBA are the Buffalo Bills of the 90s. Hopefully with some Super Bowls. I think the Knicks were still kind of playing that half-court plotting offense. A lot of give the ball to Jalen. Let Jalen run around. Run the pick. Cat. Get the pick. Roll. But you got to speed this up a little bit. So you want a coach that's going to speed the offense up, bring it into the 21st century a little bit. Secondly, a coach who understands depth. Right? And who's going to go, I need a bench. Help. Right? Obviously, that's Leon's job. Leon needs to go get a bench, but a coach who's going to utilize the bench properly. Right? I don't care. And old coaches do it. Rick Carlisle in Indiana uses that bench heavy. So he's an older style coach. So those are two things. I need someone who recognizes the importance of depth and using that depth when necessary at different points of the game. And I need someone who's going to bring in some offensive principles that's going to speed things up, right? I'm not saying run and gun like OKC in Indiana, but let's go a little quicker. In the chat, Elon Musk is free. Elon Musk could be head coach. Get Starlink at the Garden. That'd be kind of cool. I was waiting for this name, Mark Jackson. Never happened. I really want to get to the nitty gritty of what in the hell happened in Golden State with Mark Jackson still. I feel like we still don't know the complete story. We hear bits and pieces of Mark Jackson and what happened. But I really want to know what the hell happened with Mark Jackson and why it didn't work out. Because I'm very curious as to why he still's unemployed to this day and not even getting a sniff of a job anywhere. It's very, very funny to me. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be back in, let's say, 30 seconds. Talk a little NBA. Jason will be on in a few minutes, and we'll go get his thoughts on Tibbs, talk NBA Finals, and the New York Liberty. Starting out hot. So we'll be right back. 30 seconds. And we're back here on the box out. My name is Kahlil Thomas. Jason Corden joined me in a few minutes. NBA Finals start 2 nights. Actually, the next 8 minutes, give or take. So we're going to end a little early just because I know, I have to watch the game, even though as a Knicks fan, I'm bitter and angry and just pissed off. For you guys, I'm going to watch it, analyze it, come back with something. But we got Indiana, we got OKC. I've been thinking all week about whether Indiana has a shot in this series against OKC. And I've come to the realization that they do. But I think kind of like the Knicks series, a lot of things have to go right in order for them to win the series. I know Bruce on armchairing, Pacers in 6. He announced that last night. Armchairing Wednesday nights here on the YouTube channel. He announced this last night. You think back to game 1, Knicks Pacers, and what had to happen in order for the Pacers to take that game, right? The Knicks playing not to lose, turning the ball over, taking terrible shots. The Pacers getting easy baskets. Halliburton hitting what goes in my bank of the worst moments of Knick history, the bounce in, and then winning overtime. That was a catalyst for Indiana winning this series. That was an example of everything working perfectly for Indiana to win that game and then eventually win the series. I think we're looking at a situation where Indiana needs everything to go right in order to beat OKC. OKC, top to bottom, might be one of the strongest teams I've seen in my time watching basketball, which goes back. I'm 42, so 35 years. Yes, I was 7 when I was really starting paying attention. I'm a nerd. Like I said, I was 7. I was reading newspapers and, looking at box scores and shit. So 7 is when I was doing this shit. But top to bottom, I've not seen a team this deep, and not just this deep, but this strong, and the depth being so good where, we have there's times where SGA is not having a good game, and then he's got to lean on other people. This year, you've seen those other players step up. And I know people are going to go back to game 1 against Denver and how SGA kind of got doubled and tripled and kind of pushed out. And no one hit shots against Denver in game 1 of their series when they lost. Got that. Cool. I trust the OKC roster way more than I trust the Indiana roster. All right. SGA, and I'm going to go on a complete huge limb here. SGA is the face of the NBA. I'm putting my chips down right now and pushing to the front of the table. I think SGA, he is the temperament, the play, everything he does screams, this is the guy. Not Anthony Edwards, not Luka, not Giannis, not Jokic. SGA is the face of this league. Him winning the title cements that. Now, him not winning the title does not say, oh, SGA, he ain't shit. I still think SGA is the face of the league. I think winning the title puts that title on him for real. And not just him be in the conversation has the face of the NBA. Something in my head. For Indiana, a lot depends on Halliburton. If Tyrese Halliburton does not have a good game, the rest of the team slides. right? You would need Pascal Siakam to have big games. You would need Miles Turner to have a big game. You would need someone else, like a Thomas Bryant, like we talked about before, like a TJ McConnell, like a Nesbitt to have a crazy big game. Can you really depend on those guys to go, okay, I'm going to score 25 points because Tyrese ain't having it tonight? Siakam did it a couple times against the Knicks, and they never figured that out. Probably another reason why Tibbs got fired. But man-to-man, straight up and down, I'm trusting OKC a lot more than Indiana, right? And I know the knock on OKC is they've not been there before. They're too young, youngest team in the NBA. You know, Indiana's ready. They've had a year of building. That's it. They got to get punched in the face now, and then maybe next year OKC gets. I think OKC got punched in the face in that Denver series. I think the Denver series is where they took that punch, and they went 7 against a grizzled Denver Nugget team and came out on top. I think that series right there was the series they needed to have in order to win the championship now. If they went in and swept Denver 4-0, that doesn't help them. I think them going through that kind of rough and tough series and a win or go home game 7, they needed that series. They needed that. They just needed to be. They learned how to counterpunch in that series way more than against Minnesota, or if the Denver series was a little easier than what it was. I think them going to that series sets them up for this series against Indiana, who's going to try to body you and try to muscle you out. And okay, she's like, we just did this against Denver. We're straight. I knew me saying this was going to kind of generate some conversation. Jay, not yet, but he's getting there. I know Bruce is waiting. Face of the league. He is a forgettable face of the league. I don't think, if not him, then who? I think that's what we got to ask that question. If not SGA, who is the face of this league? And don't say LeBron. I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear that no more. It's that he's out. It's not LeBron. It's not Steph. I think even Giannis, until he figures out if he's staying in Milwaukee or going someplace else, he's not really in the conversation. I think he kind of could have been a couple years ago. But who is that guy that's going to be like, yeah, I can do this? Trying to bring this up. I'm agreeing with you because SGA is a bona fide superstar. Halliburton is just a really good player. I think Halliburton. I think if you break it down into tiers, I think Halliburton is that tier below where SGA, where Ant is. I think that's really it. I think those two, off the top of my head. And I know Bruce just said in the chat, Curry and James to the face of the league. I think fans are, I don't want to say phasing out Steph and LeBron. I don't think people are phasing them out completely. I don't think that's the thing. But I do think people are starting to look, okay, who's next? Right? Who's next? Who's the face? Because Curry and LeBron, their lifespan's slowly diminishing. And at some point, they're going to retire. They're going to leave. Their play is going to drop. We're waiting for LeBron's play to go to drop 3 levels. Hasn't happened yet. It will happen, right? Not everybody's Tom Brady, right? Steph might just say, "Fuck it, I'm going home because I'm tired." I think everybody's looking for that next person. I think SGA is that next person. Oh Jesus. This is why I don't let you talk, Jay. Scoop Henderson. This is why I don't let you speak. If I still have the phone in, I would hang up on you right now. I would hang up on you. But in this series, I have the Thunder, and I have the Thunder in 6. I trust their roster. I think SGA has kind of figured the game out in the playoffs. I think I keep going back to the Denver series, and you probably sick of me hearing saying every week. I think the Denver series did not just only help OKC, but I think it also helped SGA as well. I think that was a very important series for him to see what he can, what he can't do, how to make adjustments, how to fix himself up. I really do think that series put SGA in this spot now, where in the Minnesota series he's dominated. And I know Minnesota's not Denver. Minnesota has its holes and whatever. But going from Denver to Minnesota, I think you saw the difference in SGA going from there to there. I think you're going to see a difference from SGA going from here to here. I will also say, do not sleep on Chet Holmgren. I know Bruce will say something about him eating a biscuit or something, but Chet Holmgren could be an X factor because if Chet's on, and I think he was on against Minnesota, against Denver, it was kind of real up and down series for him. Chet on the defensive end, and Chet being able to step out and hit that 15, 17-foot jumper is very, very important. So I'm putting Chet in that X factor lane, kind of like I'm putting Pascal Siakam in that X factor lane as well. If Chet has a big series, OKC wins this series easily in 6. But I think Chet really, they need Chet to have, like Chet was back in college, killing shit. They need Chet from like Zaga days to come in and really tear it up. Oh, I see the man. He came in. What's popping, bro?
Not much, man. A lot of stuff happening this week, huh?
I know. So I talked about Thibodeau in the first half, but I do want to get your thoughts. We almost had a mercy pot on Tuesday. What were your thoughts about Tibbs being fired on Tuesday?
Honestly, I thought something might have went down, but maybe later into the summer, well after the NBA Finals. I was shocked that they fired him. I understand why they did it, and I feel like, not to say he lost the locker room, but I think it's kind of like Tibbs is the Buck Showalter of the NBA, but no one really wants to admit that. He only went but so far with the Bulls. He went but so far with the Wolves. And I feel like his coaching style for this Knicks team, that if they want to get over the hump, if they want to get to the finals, and not to say get past the Pacers, I think had they made the finals, they might have gotten swept and it looked real bad. So I think this is actually a blessing in disguise that they got eliminated before the finals. But I think Tibbs' coaching style is not suitable for long-term success. And I think that's something we talked about maybe his whole tenure with the Knicks, the whole 5 years.
Mm-hmm. I said it before, Mike, just since this pod's been on and Tibbs is a coach, we talked about it. He's playing guys too much. He needs to use the bench. Mm-hmm. And, I said it in the first half hour, how if you gave him a bench, because the Knicks really never gave him that bench that you could say, play these guys, they can give you those minutes.
Right.
Because you think about the bench we have now, you don't really have, you have Deuce and you maybe have
Page and Shamet. Page and Shamet.
Yeah. So I was like, can you really trust that? Like in past years, there was like nobody. So the Knicks didn't do him any favors by not giving him a bench, but would he have played those guys if he had a bench? You kind of got to look at it like, if he had 13 guys he could trust, would he play 13 guys? Probably not.
I'll take it a step further. Remember when they traded DiVincenzo and Randall for Cat? We were saying that once they got Bridges, those minutes, somebody's going to lose minutes. Somebody's going to be unhappy rolling over a Knick player right there. We didn't know who it would be. And I think that's also a testament of like how deep would his rotation have been if Randall and DiVincenzo was still here? It'll probably still been the same.
Well, yeah, I mean, Randall would have played 35. He played like 38, 39 minutes, I would say. Probably jumped that up a little bit. Who would you hire as coach? Because I mentioned, I don't know, Patino's name was mentioned.
God, no. No Patino.
Mike Malone, Taylor Jenkins, who's done dirty by Memphis. I like the Taylor Jenkins possibility. Is there anyone else you would think about?
I'm hearing a little rumblings about Jason Kidd all of a sudden, that he's emerging as a possible candidate. What about what's his name? John, the one that was an assistant for Tibbs that was in the running.
Brian, we mentioned John. Yeah, Johnny Bryant he's out there too.
I might go that direction. I feel like that might be the direction to go, kind of like Van Gundy after Riley left. Somebody who knows these players, probably knows they could probably function in a better offensive system. I think that's what the Knicks need to work on, an offensive system, because Brunson being so ball dominant, it seems like he's a black hole at times.
I said the same thing 20 minutes ago.
I'm glad we're on the same wavelength then.
I said speed this damn offense up, get the ball movement, have some more motion, and get a coach who understands and appreciates depth and goes, okay, I know that we have to play 10 guys to save Brunson, to save Bridges, to save Cat, and those are the 10 guys you're going to run with.
Yep.
And do it that way. Because Tibbs was never about that life, about playing his bench and playing anybody really. So I was shocked that it happened. I know the absolute anger from like Mad Dog Russo and Stephen A. Smith. You know, I don't listen to Stephen A. like that no more. But they came across my feed. Mm-hmm. The anger over it was like, y'all really pissed off about Tom Thibodeau?
I think it's a combination of one, they think Dolan has something to do with it, and and we just talked about Mad Dog. I'm gonna go with the Chris Russo side of it. I don't think Tibbs have anything to do with this. I think they noticed with the they got lucky with the Boston. We all have to admit the Knicks did get lucky with Boston, whereas Boston really choked away game 1 and 2. And I think the plan going in might have been to get rid of Tibbs anyway, because had they lost that series, it would have been the whole narrative about the next season would have been different. It would have been like, oh, they didn't beat anybody with a winning record. They didn't get past second round. They did get past second round, and Indiana kind of figured them out real early in that series. And that to me was the problem in terms of coaching. Like every time Tibbs tried to make an adjustment, Carlisle was like 5 steps ahead of him.
Yeah, I was saying before, I think ESPN.com had an article today talking about, what happened, and the moves that Tibbs made in game 3 only showcased what was wrong with Tibbs.
Yep.
So when he put Mitch in the starting lineup and put Hart back on the bench, which we've been saying, Hart should be on the bench. Hart should not be starting a game. You need Hart coming off. You need the Hart from Hart off the bench.
100%.
And then the other adjustments of extending the bench and playing more bench guys. You can't tell me Leon was like, why are we just doing that now?
When we both been saying, when they got Mitch back, they should have been tweaking the lineup from that point and building up for the playoff run.
And obviously, when he first came back, he wasn't going to play 30 minutes. But Cat should not play the 5 ever again.
I agree.
He's not. Minnesota got Gobert because Cat can't play the 5.
Exactly.
That's the reason. So what? And then in game 2, I mentioned Cat did not see the floor in the fourth quarter when you couldn't score a basket. So this Indiana series is encapsulated like what? So wait. So if I'm GM, I'm sitting there watching the game from my little corner of the garden, like, what the fuck are we doing? You doing this? What is happening? And Leon's probably like, okay, this is it. This is as far as we're gonna get. And thanks for your service. I love you, but you got to.
I'm surprised it happened 2.5 days after they got eliminated. I would have expected this. If this was the move to make, I would have expected it after the finals or maybe after the draft. But they were like, nah, we've seen enough.
I don't know. I'm curious to see where they go here. I know we start hearing about interviews and stuff like that coming up, so I'm gonna see where that goes.
And add real quick, I think this is a sign to other players that, hey, because a lot of players in the league don't like playing for Tibbs. Tibbs has his guys, no doubt about it. But there's a lot of guys out there. Like, could you imagine Durant or Giannis with Tibbs? I don't know if those guys would be Tibbs guys in terms of will they buy in. So this is also, to me, signaling they might have plans for other players down the road.
Yeah, I'm curious. And I said this before, Tibbs didn't lose the locker room. I know Leon spoke to a few players. Definitely talked to Brunson. Probably talked to Cat. Probably talked to Bridges. But talk to Bridges, again, Bridges said what he said. Bridges was like, listen, coach, you got to play some more guys. Like, help us out. Which probably is like, damn, all right, cool. But I think Leon probably saw it and said, okay, I know the guys love him. Mm-hmm. But can we go any further with this team, with Tibbs' coach? I think that was what it was. I think Leon Rose went to Dolan and said, listen, I don't think we can go any further than where we are right now with Tom Thibodeau as coach. And that's like him and Tibbs are boys. And sometimes you got to make that call and go, you got to fire your friend. I've fired friends in the past at different things I've ran. Sometimes you make the move.
Sometimes you got to do that. It's a tough move, but
you're like a douchebag doing it, but you got to make that move because it's for the betterment of the organization, not because that's your boy. And that's what it is. We talk about the NBA Finals real quick. Who do you got? Who's going to play a factor? I picked the Thunder in 6. Bruce,
I'm going with that.
Pacers. Okay, you got Thunder too?
I got Thunder in 6 only because I look at the Pacers, and I hate to say this, they're like a JV version of the Thunder. Everything the Pacers do great, what they did to the Knicks, it could happen to them 10 times fold with OKC.
Yeah, I'm curious. First of all, it's going to be a track meet because both teams run, so it's going to be up and down. That's the only reason I really want to watch this series. I know it's going to be like this, boom, 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 boom. Speaking of 7-1, Thunder on top of the Pacers in the first quarter. That game's going on right now. I also just trust the Thunder roster more than I trust Indiana's, and we saw Indiana's firsthand. We just experienced the roster. We just experienced Indiana's roster, and besides Halliburton, you need Halliburton to have a big game in order.
And I don't see him having big games. I don't see him having big games in the series.
No, which would mean you need Siakam to have big games. You would need Nesmith to have big games. You would need Turner to have big games to make up for Halliburton. I feel like you can't get all that happening in the same game at the same time over and over again.
I'll say this one thing about this series, and to me, this pretty much sums up the series. For everything, it was not Naismith. Who was the one that was guarding Brunson all the time? It's Naismith, right?
Yeah.
As big as he looked to Brunson, Dort looks that much bigger to him, and that's what I feel like. That's what to me this series is all about. For everything that the Pacers did against the Knicks, I'm telling you, the Thunder is going to do it 10 times folded because their guys are bigger, faster, and younger.
And then Jay, I trust the OKC defense.
Same here.
Defense. Listen, you put Caruso on Halliburton. Caruso can shut you down. That's a very scary idea of like, okay, go get him. And Caruso's like, all right, because that's what Caruso does. Caruso is that guy that can really shut you down. So Bruce says Pacers in 6. We both have Thunder in 6.
Yeah. Hartenstein's going to get the revenge that he should have got last year. He was the one that pretty much bodied the Pacers last year, but all the guys are falling apart. So I think he gets his revenge and a ring at the end of the series.
So let me get series right now. Pacers up early. We're going to duck out a little early tonight just to go watch the game. But I want to talk about the Liberty. You've been covering them. I know you texted me. I meant to text you back. I realized I texted you the other night. And I'm like, I never texted them back from when they raised the banner. Holy shit! Yeah. It was like a month ago. My bad. So Liberty's up right now by 11 on the Mystics. They're in the Commissioner's Cup right now. What have you seen from them? Because you've seen them live and you've seen them up close. What have you seen from them so far?
I've seen a very good, cohesive team. Like I think I texted you that time. I think Cloud is the best addition they've made in quite some time, and I feel like she's the dog that they needed to, especially if they want to repeat. It seemed like they're in a collision course with the Lynx. It seemed like them and the Lynx are clear club better than everybody else in the league right now. So we'll see how it all plays out.
Yeah, and the Cloud edition was kind of late, and kind of like I don't want to say a throwaway edition, but I feel like no one's really talking about like how important she could be, especially with Benaja out. She's out, and I think she might be out for the season, or at least
I think they said for the season.
End. Yeah. So they needed someone to come in and take her spot, and she took her spot, and actually, in my opinion, a lot better than Benaja anyway. Yep. So imagine they had both of them. I don't think they would have got Cloud if Benaja was there, but everything's clicking. I know Bruce on his show last night mentioned the schedule and how they really haven't really played anyone tough. They played Vegas, but besides Vegas, they've had kind of a weak schedule. Is that contributing to them being undefeated, or do you think that's the best, one of the best teams in the league?
I think it's two things. I think it is to contribute a little bit. It will contribute with the chemistry because now Natasha is easily flowing in with everyone else. And I won't even mention the schedule too much, but I think because they've only been tested in a handful of games. What they did to the Suns the other night was just embarrassing, but that's the Suns' problem, not the Liberty. But I think the easy schedule does help, yes. but I still think it's them and the Lynx and no one else in the league. I think they're head and above the two best teams.
So I do want to run through the schedule real quick because I know Bruce is going to say something if I don't. Aces, Sky, Fever, the Valkyries twice in a row.
Hey, you got to play who's in front of you.
The Mystics, and then the Sun, who they beat the brakes off out of. So you're right. The Valkyries is you never want to say guaranteed win in pro sports, but that's as close to guaranteed win you're going to get. The Sun, I don't know. The Sun beat the Fever the other night, and I'm still trying to figure out how the hell they beat the Fever. And obviously that was about Caitlin Clark. She's out. But the Sun look bad. Like Marina Mabry is all they really got right now. And considering where they've been to where they are, it's like
quickly.
Night and day. I did not expect them to be that bad that quick. I knew a lot of turnover, but god damn they're bad.
Hey, I got 2 words for you. Tanking for Juju.
No, Juju's not coming out next year.
You don't think so?
No, I think she'll come back from the knee. I think she'll come back. I think she needs another year. I think if she even comes back next year, I think she'll stay in. I don't think she'll come out after ACL. You think so?
We got to see what the landscape looks like. If the landscape looks like it's thin, she might come out. But then again, she'll make more money staying in college. Shout out to NIL.
Oh yeah, she's gonna make that bank. They all make bank in college now. I think she's in the State Farm commercial, so I think she's good.
Yeah.
I think she's good. Going around the league, like I said, the Lynx they're 8-0, Liberty 7-0. The Aces kind of holding together 4-2. I do see them without Kelsey Plum. I do think that's a problem. I think them trading and moving away from Kelsey Plum. I think she works so well with that team that it wasn't going to work. I feel like it. I'm trying to figure out how to word this. Like, I don't say it wouldn't work. It wasn't going to work, but it's going to take time to have those changes implemented. So 4-2 is commendable considering the major change you just made.
I agree.
Talk about the Sun. How do you feel about the Valkyries expansion team? How do you feel about them? Like from just watching them so far, because I think you've seen them already.
Yeah, I've seen them twice already. It's a work in progress. They're very competitive. They jack up a lot of threes like the Golden State counterpart, but it's good for league. It's good for league. Add more depth. It's good for. They'll be fine. I think they're better than Dallas. I think they're better than Dallas already.
What in Dallas? I feel like, especially now you got Becker. She's out with a concussion, so she's gonna be out for a few games. I think everyone expected Dallas to be better than what they are.
Yeah,
and I was like, pump the brakes. Young team, a lot of young draft picks, a lot of new players in Dallas, and essentially it's an organization starting from scratch because their ownership's finally kind of putting money in. So it's almost like a reset on the entire organization. So for everyone to assume that Dallas is going to be, contenders for the title already, that would be a little crazy to even get that.
I thought Phoenix would have been in the position Dallas is in right now, and Phoenix is playing pretty well.
Bruce makes a good point, and I think I saw this in the 2 games I watched on TV. Beckers and Rika can't play together. I kind of see that a little bit. I think the spacing is a little off, and it doesn't work. Do you see a move being done here, or do you think Dallas is going to ride this out with what they got?
I think they'll ride it out till next season or till next offseason. Because you're not going to make a move now. I think it's going to ride it out. You saw it? Okay.
I did see that. I did kind of see some uneven play, put it that way, with those two.
Okay.
Not saying that, oh, wow. Great comparison. Paige, Monta Ellis, and Steph Curry. I kind of like that comparison. I think that might be the best comparison for these two. I hate to think that, but I kind of see that actually. So we'll see what Dallas. I know Paige is out, so we'll see if she recovers, if it gets better, if the coach figures out how the hell to incorporate both of them. But we'll see. Last topic tonight, I'm gonna talk real quick about Giannis. the sweepstakes is underway. People are already talking about it. Do you see Giannis coming to the Knicks?
I don't see it. I see, honestly, the landscape with Boston. Wouldn't Giannis want to run it back in the East?
Well, the rumor is
like the Cavs. No one believes in the Cavs until the Cavs actually do something. I think the Knicks and Pacers is right there. Detroit's not ready yet. Orlando's not ready yet. Philly's the dark horse. Philly could make some moves, but as we're watching the finals, based on teams rebuilding on the fly, thanks to Paul George's romance with LA, I'm not trusting Paul George. I think Giannis should stay one more year and run it back. That's just what I think. But if anybody's equipped to get Giannis in the East, it has to be the Nets because the Nets have all the Knicks draft capital. So what the Knicks are really, who are you fleecing the Bucks for in the roster wise?
So I'm glad you said that. And I was looking this up earlier and I freaking lost it. And I'm pissed. There was a rumor about Toronto and how there is, and this obviously this is just a rumor.
Mm-hmm.
Draft picks. Toronto and Giannis reportedly have interest. But I feel like with Toronto, Scotty Barnes would have to be the centerpiece of that. And I think if you move Scotty Barnes, Toronto's not a good team anymore. I think Giannis and Scotty could play together. But I think without Scotty Barnes, what do you really have in that team if you bring in Giannis? So how would you feel about that one?
I still wouldn't do it. Well, the weird situation about this is that Milwaukee won a championship recently, so it might be the fan base you could sell like on a quick rebuild. But I think if you're going to give up Giannis, you're signaling that you're not competing for a championship anytime soon. So I think you want draft capital. That just makes more sense to me that I would trade draft capital for Giannis. And not too many teams can do that, but the teams that can, it makes sense. It makes sense if the Nets did it. It makes sense if Houston did it. It makes sense if, God forbid, Oklahoma does it. God forbid, watch out if Oklahoma loses this series. My goodness. Who knows what they're going to do with all that draft capital. They're going to definitely go get themselves a closer to go with SGA. So I would pump the brakes on Giannis a little bit to the Knicks, but I personally think he should wait it out.
Well, Toronto has that draft capital because they have all their picks from now until 2031.
Right.
So you can move them all. An abundance of second round picks because, all of a sudden second round picks are like, currency now. So you can trade a 25, 27, 29, 31 for Giannis. But I feel
and find a way to keep. Can you give them? Can you give them Barrett? Can you give them RJ Barrett and quickly and a bunch of draft?
Well, I think that would be the question. The question for that would be like, okay, if you put Giannis and RJ together, is that a top 6 team in the East?
No.
Damn, really?
It's a play-in. I don't think it's better than Toronto, and Orlando still got some maturing to do. And I think another go around with them, I'll put them ahead of Toronto still. Toronto will replace the Bulls and Miami. They will replace those two. They will replace that bottom part of the East. That's 7-8.
So we talk about the Nets, right? I feel like the Nets is probably in the best position to make this trade if the trade happens. They have 4 first-round picks this year. They have their own pick next year. They have 3 first-round picks in 2027, 1 in 2028, 2 in 2029, 2 in 2031, in addition to other second-round draft picks. And the cap space. So you could.
Who you want us to get, Giannis? Who you want us to bring over to Brooklyn with you, Giannis?
So you could actually go, okay, we could bring you in here, and we got money to play with. Because we still got Cam Johnson, who we haven't traded yet. I think Cam Thomas is, I want to say, he's not signed through next year. Actually, the only player signed through next year is Claxton, who's making 25. Is not a bad deal. $20 million for Cam Johnson, and then like 3s and 1s after that. Like they literally have a ton of money they can blow away right now.
Well, if they got Giannis, I would love to see the Nets get Giannis and Booker. I want to see if they can make that play happen.
I think Phoenix, anything's possible right now. I think
Phoenix is like a crackhead outside waiting for a pipe. They need some help right now. They'll take anybody's deal. If the Knicks wanted to give them a second round, they'll probably take it.
Best question of the night: how Tibbs get fired, but Doc doesn't. Doc is that cockroach in your house that won't die. That you swore you got with a shoe.
And he tried.
And
he tried to die. He tried to die. He was enjoying his time as an announcer on ABC. And it lasted like a month. And then there was a coaching vacancy. And they couldn't call
Doc,
him.
I've never seen a coach. I've never seen a bigger forget coach. I've never seen a bigger con man in sports than Doc Rivers. You get that one title. And that just held it down for you. You're a hot commodity from one championship that you really didn't do anything with. Like you didn't have anything to do with that.
Me and you could have coached that team.
We really could have. I could just do what Phil Jackson used to do. Sit on the bench, stand up, throw up a triangle, sit back down. That's all Doc had to do in Boston. So Doc keeps getting these jobs, not even coaching jobs. I'm going on a rant. Not even coaching jobs, but like TV jobs. And like, I'm not listening to you, Doc, because you had one good year. You're in LA, you flamed out. The only cool thing about Doc in LA was that goddamn Hulu series they did last year.
Oh, yeah.
That was it. That shit was fire. That was about it.
I mean, I would have personally respected Doc had he not gotten hurt in 94 and got left off the roster. And that was kind of like his own fault. He got left off the Knicks playoff roster because they could have used him in Game 7, but that's a whole nother rant.
Yeah, I can't talk about that. I still got Halliburton. I still got Halliburton shot in my head. That's like that goes with the Patrick Ewing finger roll and the Charles Smith missing 800 layups and
Back to Tibbs. Does he get fired if Dave Knicks win Game 1? Does he get fired? Oh no, he couldn't get fired because he's been playing right now tonight. Never mind.
Yeah.
That was a dumb question.
Yeah. And gets swept. It gets swept right away.
I don't see them how they could have won a game. I don't see how they could have won a game.
New best comment of the night. Doc is the Elon Musk of coaching.
I don't know, man. Elon's on a tirade today. I don't know. I don't know if Doc got that kind of energy in him.
Listen, we ain't going to go there tonight, but this shit's been entertaining today. I've been very happy with what I've been seeing on Twitter and X. And
we're back on Twitter for the weekend.
Listen, I don't have Truth Social, but damn it if I know what's on there. And I'm like, this is fun. This is really fun. Jason, as always, great show, bro.
Thank you. Likewise.
So we are back next Thursday. We're back to normal time. Now our basement's back to normal and not, with water in it and shit. Next Thursday, 8 p.m. we'll be back. Armchairing with Bruce Morrow, the man you see in the group chat. Every Wednesday night here at 8 p.m. as well. So we'll be back next Thursday. We're also on Twitch. I put us on my Twitch channel. So
nice.
KT Money 973. So if you want to check us out on Twitch, you can there too. So we hit it up. We're going back on the podcast over the summer. So we got big things. Coming up. So I'm very, very happy. For Jason, I'm Kahlil. Enjoyed it. Game 1. We'll be back next Thursday. Maybe it's over already. I don't know. Probably not.
Probably not.
We'll see. So we'll see you next Thursday night here in the Box Out. Peace.
This has been The Box Out with Kahlil Thomas and Jason Kortner. Subscribe now for the best tri-state area basketball talk.